Hello. Oh, there she is. What's up, everyone? How are you guys doing? Good? Okay. I am really excited. I flew in for a few hours because I could not miss the opportunity to talk to these two fabulous people who I know very well, who are friends, who I have story told with in the past, and who we could be in front of y'all and talk about something that's obviously really near and dear to our hearts, and hopefully your hearts too, whether you have textured hair or not. But talking about textured hair is a love language for me. I should probably introduce myself if you don't know who I am. My name is Julie Wilson. I think it's all up there too. I'm the beauty editor at large at Cosmopolitan magazine, and just a storyteller and a tall glass of sass and a mom and a wife and all of those things. And I am joined by the one and only Wright, who is a celebrity hairstylist and author, all of the things. Also consulting and working with RX. If you guys don't know that brand, you should. It's amazing. And then we have Diop, who, y'all, raise your hand if you have tried Sienna Naturals. Woo! It's everything, right? Like, it is so good. Hannah is the co-founder of Sienna Naturals with her sister-in-law, Issa Rae. We know Issa Rae. So power duo, really both of these folks making waves in hair care and in the textured hair care space. So we're gonna get into a conversation about that. I'm really excited. When I had a podcast at Essence, I used to be the global beauty director at Essence before I went to Cosmo. I used to ask everyone, when did you know black was beautiful? And I really want to ask you guys, when did you know black hair was beautiful? Because we do live in a world where only 23 states have passed the Crown Act. So there are many a state in this country where the way our hair naturally grows out of our heads could be deemed illegal. That's not okay, right? Insane. And so the fact that we are all in this space talking about hair and textured hair is really important, not only for vanity reasons, because we all like to look fly, but also because there's real political weight and implications to this. So I'm going to start with you, Hannah. When did you know black hair was beautiful?
I just thought about this, and honestly, I think it wasn't until I got to Howard University,
okay, come on, Howard,
a historically black institution in Washington, D.C., my freshman year, and I was surrounded by people with my same story. People who had grown up in predominantly white spaces and had struggled to care for their hair, to appreciate their own beauty. And there was something so powerful about relating and realizing I wasn't alone, even though I felt I was alone. And I think just seeing how beautiful our hair is. We could let our hair down, literally. I truly could show up as my full self without any pressure to represent, the diaspora or speak on behalf of black people, et cetera. And that gave me a freedom. And in that freedom, I learned to love our hair, learn to love textured hair. So that's when it finally all clicked for me, and I really saw the beauty of textured hair.
I love that. Any other Howard? Usually, like, someone says Howard and like the whole room erupts.
HU?
So I don't know, no HU people in here? Okay, it's all right.
You know.
Okay. We see you. Johnny, I want to ask the same question. And like, y'all, I know I gave really light receipts and like bios, but y'all know who Johnny Wright is, right? Like, he touched our forever First Lady, Michelle Obama, for 8 years. And like, I will always remember, I was working at the Huffington Post at the time when the queen that is Michelle Obama debuted those bangs. Do y'all remember that? Like, literally, world stop. Carry on. Like, I remember being like, oh my gosh, like bangs, like the whole world was, anyway, Johnny Wright, y'all. So, and now working with Tamron Hall and like so many other celebrities, but you know I had to like embarrass you for a second because
I'm not embarrassed at all.
The fact that you were able to be in her presence, but also make such powerful statements and allowed her to show up so beautifully is just amazing. But let's take it back to the roots, pun intended, of like when you knew that textured hair was beautiful and black hair was beautiful.
Thank you for that, by the way, and thanks for having me, guys. Let's just piggyback off of the bangs thing. You know, I got in so much trouble for those bangs.
They were iconic.
And I'll write about them real soon, so look for the book real soon on that. But, you know, I grew up with a hairstylist grandmother. My grandmother started doing hair when she was 13 years old. She did hair until she was 91 years old. And she passed when she was 93. So I started doing hair when I was around 10, 11 years old. My mother was my first client. So I don't think there was a time when I did not recognize that black hair was beautiful, because it was always celebrated and honored in my home. My grandmother did hair on the back porch of her salon. She had clients that had been coming to her for 70 years. And so the way that she pressed and curled their hair and did the finger waves and did all the curls, I used to sit at her feet and just marvel at her artistic, expression with her clients. So for me, I've always seen black hair as beautiful, and I've always seen black women as beautiful. So it's always been a thing for me, so I've never had to come to that. It was born in me.
Okay, yeah. I love that. Because sometimes it's a journey. We know, like, I feel like, I love the fact that as a woman of color, we can show up anyway. Silk press, braids, locks, afro, bantu knots, whatever it is, and still be able to stand in our blackness. Yeah. But I do think, again, we have something like when there needs to be a Crown Act, there is a lot of stigma around textured hair and how we can show up. Is it professional? That sort of thing. So I'm glad that you knew from an early age, and it's been your ministry to make sure that folks understand that it is beautiful. Yeah. And so part of both y'all ministries being out in these streets and like also not only showing imagery of textured hair, but also providing products, right? Yeah. Hannah, I want you to talk a little bit about what that means, right? We say we interchange it a lot, textured hair and African American hair, but like textured hair, a lot of different ethnicities can have textured hair. How did you approach Sienna Naturals in order to not only obviously celebrate black hair, but also have the whole textured community feel seen, celebrated, and also have products that work for them?
Yeah, thank you for that question. So my experience growing up was very different. My mom was white. She didn't understand my hair texture. She didn't know how to work with it. She affirmed it and told me constantly how beautiful my hair was. She did her research, but the peer environment that I was in didn't echo that. And actually, I started swimming competitively at a young age. So around 8, 9 years old, I was in the locker room on my own. And that's, when the shower heads just came out of the wall, right? So you're just in there. The whole team does not have hair like mine. And I'm struggling with product that doesn't feel good, that doesn't slip through my hair, that doesn't work with my hair. And that, for me, left such a strong impression, and it led me to have such a difficult relationship with my hair as a child, but ultimately became my inspiration. And what I can say now wholeheartedly is textured hair is my muse. Textured hair connects me to my past. It is my present, and it's my future too, because I have children, and I'm very intentional about how I speak affirmation into how we talk about our hair. And so Sienna Naturals, from the very beginning, I realized that I've been creating this product for 9-year-old Hannah so that she could be on her own with no help, wash her hair, and not only achieve and accomplish what she needs to, which is shampooing and conditioning and having the product feel good, but the product feels so good in your hair, you can't help but fall in love with your curls. And I hear that from my customers all the time, like, oh my God, people will post a picture fresh out the shower, like, look at this. And you're like, okay, it's wet, curly hair, I love it. They're like, this feels so good, my hair is so soft. And so I realize now, like, the DNA of that brand was imprinted from my struggle as a child, and I'm just so grateful that I've been able to take that experience, and it really is my mission in life, and it's such meaningful work that I get to do. So what I will say, though, in terms of serving everyone, that's not, I've never designed to do that. I think the reason why the products work so well for all textures, because of course, I test them on myself. My chemist has 4C hair. She's a Nigerian-born woman. We test them on our children, Issa. So we have a lot of, I guess, diverse textures in 3 to 4s that we go through, and then our customers too. But another thing we did different was I grew up in a very naturally inclined family where, we were members of community-supported agriculture. My mom was very particular about what we put on our bodies. And so I wanted to create product in the wellness space that could live on the shelf with the highest standards for clean. And I think that this has been missing from hair care in general for everyone. And that's why the products have been embraced by so many, by all textures.
I mean, I love that. Look, efficacy, I'm a beauty editor, so like I'm basically a professional guinea pig. I'm using everything, I'm trying everything, sometimes to the chagrin of my hair and like my mental health. But it's always so good. I love that you not only put so much focus on the efficacy of the products, but I love that the outcome of that is a feeling. Right? Like beauty is such an interesting industry in that like there's real feeling behind it. Like it's a part of your confidence and your self-esteem. And that's why we use things like, we call it our crown. Like, so I love the fact that that has completely, like there's such synergy between the efficacy and like the feeling that you're giving your consumer. Speaking of feeling, Johnny,
yeah.
You have touched the heads of so many famous folk that we just love and adore. How, as an artist, because this is real artistry, do you celebrate texture while also creating, like making that person feel good and also creating storytelling for all of us who are looking at it? Like we're scrolling, we're seeing them on the red carpet, and we get a feeling from that. What is your process and how do you do that when you have them sitting in the chair to say, I want to celebrate your hair, but I also want to celebrate this moment? Like, what does that look like for you?
So it's funny you say that because I've said this 1,000 times in many articles that I've been a part of that, hair is a language, and if it's not moving, it has no voice. And the movement is not just about body, but it's about the texture and the way it's shaped and the way it's cut. All that is the movement in which your eyes are, taking in this image and what you see. And I tell people all the time, a woman's hair is the first thing you hear before she speaks. It tells you if she's sassy, if she's conservative, if she's sexy, if she's edgy, and all these things. So hair is truly a language. And as an artist, I feel like I am a part of the illustration of your story. So how you present yourself and how you want to be recognized is about how you wear your hair. So one thing I noticed that was a difference between when I was working with just celebrities and it's all about new, now, next and trend setting, and then I started working with the First Lady, was that the First Lady needed to have, and just the political world needed to have, a recognizable silhouette, right? Although I took the opportunity to change her as much as I could, but for a very long time, that lob is what you saw. She wasn't really...
I mean, that lob was iconic. Like, yeah, we love that lob.
Because the idea and the understanding is that you want people, if they're not following the campaign, if they're not following all of that, they can remember by the way you look, right? So that is a part of the illustration of the story. For me, to answer your question, is getting to know the person in my chair and allowing that relationship to grow and bud into a place where it is nothing but seamless in what I'm creating for them because I understand them so well. And that's the artistry of it. I tell people all the time, I have, I've been working with Tamara for 25 years. I met her when I was 20 years old. I'm now 46. So I met her.
Come on, black don't crack.
Yeah, just, you know, the gay
I just
helps
love
too.
that we just, so the aging is just on point.
Yeah, thank you. But no, so the thing is, you know, a lot of clients who used to bring me Tamara's hair, I want Tamara's hairstyle, and I was able to mimic that look on all of them. And what I realized is, there is a certain feeling. You go back to that feeling. It's a feeling they get from the image. So if they bring you a picture, it's a feeling that they want, and it's your job to understand the feeling they get from that picture, not to duplicate the haircut. It's to give them the feeling. So even though
when they bring you in a picture and they're like, do this, and you're like,
and you don't turn
your
them down.
bone structure is not going to be able to pull that off.
Exactly.
However,
how do you want to feel?
How do you want to feel?
Yeah, exactly.
How do you feel when you see this picture? Because what we're not going to do is that.
Exactly. Well, you know, I try to be a little more pleasant than saying that.
Right.
Because
there's
you
a
want them
tactful
to
way
come
of
back.
saying it.
Yeah, be tactful. But you know, that feeling is But going back to your question, that feeling is a part of the story they want to tell. So me trying to get to know them, that's why consultations are so important, and getting to know your client before you like book them for a full-on service. Get to know them, get to understand them, get to know where they want to go with this, and then you can be a part of that illustration of their story.
Okay, I have to piggyback off of this because I don't know if you guys saw in a interview last year, I want to say our former First Lady and forever First Lady, Michelle Obama, said that America wasn't ready for her. You know, she showed up, she was on her book tour, right? And she had box braids.
Yeah.
And she was talking about the fact that, like, I couldn't wear my hair like this in the White House because America wasn't ready for a First Lady to be rocking a protective style, natural texture, that sort of thing in this way. Did you have, I know there's probably NDAs been signed and all that, forever NDAs. How much can you tell us about some of the conversations that you might have had with her when you were talking about, we love the lob, but was there ever any conversations like, should we do like your natural curls? Can we do some box braids? Or was that never a conversation?
It was never a conversation, just to be quite honest. I don't know if it was a thought in her mind, but you know, and not to like push back on what she says, I honestly think she wasn't ready for it either. You know, there's a lot of scrutiny that happens in that house and in that role that you just want to minimize as much conversation, particularly negative conversation about you as possible. So her mind wasn't there. I think being outside of the White House gave her that freedom to wear her hair natural. I remember maybe a month or two after the administration ended, they went on their first vacation without us because we had been on every vacation, I went to like 49 countries with them around the world.
I love that for you.
We have been on, so this is the first time we didn't go because they were out of the administration. It was in the private sector now, which was great for them. And there was a picture of her hair natural in its natural state because I guess I don't know, I wasn't with her, but she probably got in the water and it came out.
She was swimming and living her best
she was living
life.
her best life. And
As she should.
I got a call from every outlet, TMZ. I mean, everybody called me, was like, what's going on? I was like, she's just living.
She's out here being black and joyful and the most beautiful, powerful woman in the world and like frolicking in the ocean with her amazing husband.
Exactly. So I decided to give my voice to Refinery 29 because I wanted to make sure it wasn't like salacious or anything like that. So I did, because I said this is a good opportunity to talk about natural hair and us embracing our curls and embracing our natural texture. So I did lend my voice to that, but at the end of the day, she was just on vacation. She got in the water and it did what natural hair does.
It's called reverting.
Back up.
It's the reversion of it all, but
exactly,
okay.
Yeah.
Love that. Hannah, have you felt in any way that you couldn't show up as your most natural textured self in the spaces you've been in? Obviously, being an entrepreneur, you've created your own space and lane and platform to talk about these things, but have you felt that in your adult life where you're like, because I know, we got to wrap this up soon, but like, I know that when I have friends who like have an interview for a job, Literally, we'll be on the phone talking, though, for an hour about how are you going to wear your hair? Are we straightening it? Are we giving the afro? Do you have box? And, like, we're not even talking about the fact, like, how are you going to answer that question about, like, what your biggest weaknesses are? We're talking about how we're scrolling through the Instagram feed of the person who's going to interview them and being like, do they have any black friends? How do their black friends wear their hair? What won't be alarming to them? Have you kind of felt any of that pressure?
Yeah, I mean, I started my career in corporate America, and so I wore my hair heat straightened a lot, like silk press like I have today. I would also wear it curly, but I just had to be ready, because when I wore my hair curly, it was going to be the topic of conversation. It was going to come up in every single meeting I had. There was going to be a lot of
trying to pet.
touching, and it's not okay. And that was, I think there's been a lot of progress. I have seen it over the last even 5 years. And I even see it with my children. Like, both of my kids went through a phase where they're like, I want my hair to swing, Mommy, I want my hair to swing. I'm like, I know. When you get old enough, I'll let you get a silk press, you can let it swing, but, you know, occasionally. But I want you to love your curl. And I feel so proud of the moment of my daughter telling me, Mommy, no, I want puffs today. I want puffs. And she wants to wear her Afro puff all the time, and braids. But I limit the braids, you know, because the edges, but the Afro puff is her favorite. She wants to show her curls and her textures, and I love that. And I think two things can be true. I think, like, can I say I've totally gotten comfortable with my texture, and I think it's beautiful 100% of the time. Sometimes I still walk into a room and might feel insecure about it. That's absolutely true. I still very much go with intention, rock my curls, rock my texture, but what I also love and what I also preach and embrace with my company is that we have the most versatile hair in the world, and the last thing I'm gonna do is tell a woman, especially a black woman, how she needs to wear her hair. And I think, you know, that freedom of the versatility is available to us, and we can enjoy it. And so even though there is this sort of two truths happening at the same time, the diversity of our styles is endless, and I think there's just so much beauty and language, like you said, in our ability to express ourselves. Yeah.
I think that I'm so glad you said that, because what I did find, because I wrote a book, Natural and Curly Hair for Dummies, and it was a whole book dedicated to celebrating our natural hair textures and also educating you to how to take care of it properly. But the main reason I did it was to express the versatility of our hair. A lot of times when people become naturalistas, they start to damn you for, like, you know, silk pressing, or even if you want to do a relaxer. And I think the great thing about it is, what's so great about texture hair is you can do so much with it. And, you know, and finding products that are dedicated to your hair textures, like RX, right? We shy away from the whole understanding for all hair textures, because it's not necessarily true, right? So we have a whole hair assessment that you take and you fill out, you understand what regimen is made for you within our product line, because it's not all hair textures.
Because a lot of the times when I'm at these, like, previews for product and stuff, they're like, it works for everyone, and I'm like,
no, it's not.
Let's just I know you're trying to be woke and, like, trying to be super inclusive, but, like, that's not for me if it's also for someone with fine limp hair that has no, like, curl pattern in it. Like, it's okay to say it's not for me.
It's
like,
not for all
just
hair
make
textures.
the thing for me.
Yeah, exactly.
Too.
But understanding that is really celebrating the diversity of our texture and how much you can do with it, and the versatility of our texture. I think that's where I fell in love with black hair. I mean, I remember I was dreaming about doing hair when I was 10 years old, but the image of the dream was a black woman in my chair. It wasn't anybody else but that. So I've always fell in love with the texture of our hair.
I love it. That is a perfect way to wrap this up. Thank you guys so much. Thank you to Hannah and to Johnny.
Thank you so much.
20 minutes go by so quick.
I know, we're out.
Thank you, guys.